folks, I'm Mike Murtis and welcome back to Gamer Logic. This time we are covering another video game soundtrack release on the vinyl format. This record is very super special to me because it is none other than Castlevania 3 Dracula's Curse. Now, I have a love for pretty much anything, Konami music, Castlevania music, but when it comes down to the NES trilogy, Castlevania 3 takes the cake. I absolutely love this soundtrack, and when Mondo announced that they were going to be doing this as a double LP release with not just the NES music but the Famicom music as well, I was super pumped. And man, I got a lot of history. You know, I got this boxed copy of Castlevania 3 here, and I've had this for a very, very long time. And this is one of those games that I popped in and I would play just for the music. And when I found out the cheat code to actually enable the sound test mode, man, did I go nuts with that. You know, as a little kid with my NES and my little black and white TV that I had in the 90s, I had a really cool 80s boombox that was right next to my NES down in the basement. And often what I'd like to do was put together my own NES music mixtapes. And I can tell you that Castlevania 3's music was featured predominantly. A ton. I had favorite tracks: Deja Vu, Aquarius, Beginning, the opening credits, all of that. Just fantastic music. So this music really takes me back to being a kid again. So it's very hard to say that this is a review because I'm basically going to be gushing over this whole thing because I really do love the music to this game, and that's just how it is. So if I seem extremely biased, that's pretty much the case. I mean, this is one of my favorite games, so this is going to be a very, very positive review for the most part. So yeah, when they announced this final, I was super excited for a number of reasons. The first being that this is actually a 12-inch size vinyl record. Their previous releases were 10-inch. I'm not a fan of their 10-inch releases, especially with my Sansui turntable that I have. Placing the 10-inch on there, I always have a hell of a time pulling it up and not scratching or not mishandling the record. So it's great that they finally opted to do a full 12-inch size. And you may notice that I actually have two copies of this. And this is the open version I have here, and I'll show this off in a second. I have this version as well, and you're wondering, you know, why do you have two of the same record? And that's because there's actually two different versions. There's a orange splatter version of the record, which is actually my favorite, and that was limited to like 2,500 copies. And then there was the like super limited edition version of it that only had 1,000, and that had like a brown and black split to it. They've been doing a lot of these with the split. Castlevania 2 had a day and night split. Normally, I'm not a big fan of purchasing records and keeping them sealed, but this was one of those cases where, again, this is my favorite, like one of my favorite NES soundtracks, and I just happened to be able to get on the Mondo site the second these things went live, and I was able to grab one. So this I'm probably actually going to keep sealed, which is really cool. So let's talk a little bit about the jacket, and I'll show off the orange splatter version in a second. As you can see, I've already shown you guys the front cover a few times, and if you're wondering what the deal is with the front cover, why it features the heroes of the game and kind of this weird brain split, well, Castlevania 3's final boss against Dracula, this is one of his forms where he has all these skulls and this brain kind of floating around that you have to beat in order to progress to the next portion of him. He's the second to the last form of Dracula. So I like the artist's rendition of kind of that boss, but with all of the Castlevania 3 characters. I think this is really well done, though I do have a slight complaint about this artwork. And I don't know if it's because it's the style of the artist with the pencils or whatever he used, or if it's just a bad scan, but it's very misleading when you see this cover on pictures and the digital version of it. It looks fairly high res, but when you get your actual physical copy of this, it looks like it was printed really low res. I mean, not like, 24 DPI, printed at like 11 by 17 where it's just super pixely and it looks terrible, but it does look like it was a 72 DPI image that was just printed and slapped on. It doesn't have a sharpness to it, and again, I don't know if that's the art style and that's just the way it translated when it got printed on this, but it does look a little low resolution compared to some of their other covers. And someone on one of the very many Facebook groups I am on mentioned that maybe this was going to be a 10-inch release initially and they just blew up the artwork. I don't really know if blowing up the artwork that big, unless they had a low resolution image, would really affect it that much, but I've been out of the print industry for a long time. Now on the back we got Alucard here, the son of Dracula, and we have a variety of different creatures here. We got Frankenstein, we got the Guardian from the first stage, we have the Bone Dragon, we've got Death, we've got all sorts of creatures here. I think this is really cool looking. I totally dig this, and a very nice back cover to it. And of course, because this is a double LP release, this is a gatefold vinyl, or a gatefold cover I should say. And here you have all the different blocks of the different maps of Transylvania from Castlevania 3, which I really, really dig. So you've got the ancient ship, you got the clock tower, you got Mad Forest, you got Dracula's castle, and then the Tower of Terror, which is really cool. And I love how they got all these like different icons on this thing as well that show off like the icons for the different power-ups and everything. So overall, this is a very cool piece of art. Again, printed a little low resolution, at least to my opinion, I believe. But in terms of all the other Castlevania 3 soundtracks that Mondo has put out, this is my favorite cover by far. And the fact that Mondo does their own original covers is kind of a little bit of controversy, because there's a lot of fans out there that say, this new artwork sucks. Mondo should really do the classic artwork that's available for these games. And one point that I brought up is there was an earthquake some time ago at Konami headquarters, and a lot of the original assets for a lot of games were destroyed. And one member actually brought up a pretty good point that, other companies don't have an issue with getting Konami's official art. Like Ship to Shore is a good example. They just put out the Snatcher vinyl, and that is a phenomenal looking release, and that's another review I have coming. And that uses a ton of official Konami artwork. Now, is that because maybe they sourced Kojima for that? I really don't know how that would work, but seemingly other companies are able to get Konami's artwork, and Mondo, no matter what they do, decides to generally use their own artwork. I don't know if that's cheaper for them to do it. Me personally, I don't mind this cover so much. Would I like the original music for Castlevania, or I'm sorry, would I enjoy the original artwork from these Castlevania games? Absolutely. And I think further on, the biggest issue I might have with them doing their own custom artwork would be with Symphony of the Night, which is also a upcoming release. I mean, that artwork is iconic and it's classic. They're going to have to go above and beyond if they're going to do their own deal, so that should be interesting there. Now let's get into the orange splatter vinyl, and this is my open copy. Again, I'm leaving the 1,000 copy press sealed, so I won't be showing that off. But one of the reasons I wanted this is I love the splatter effect. And just look at this thing. This is pretty sweet, and this looks great when it's being spun on your turntable. Now, if you follow my channel, probably a couple days ago I just uploaded the entire vinyl rip to this, so you can hear what it sounds like and you can see it spinning in action. But it is both records. It's got the NES sides as well as the Famicom side, so you can listen in its entirety. And if you want to pick this up, you can still get this version, I believe, from mondotees.com. And you want to go to mondotees.com, not mondo.com, because unless you're looking for an IT solution, you're not going to find any Castlevania records there. So mondotees.com to get a copy of that. Now, in terms of how these pressings are, Mondo has come a long way from learning from their mishap from the first Castlevania vinyl release. That was mastered a little too hot. It was distorted, from what I understand. I personally don't have a copy of it, but from what I understand, it's very, very loud. They kind of made up for that in their Castlevania 2 release, which in my opinion sounded very, very good. They gave it very high marks. I thought it was reproduced very well for the vinyl format. And now, of course, we have Castlevania 3. And I have no complaints whatsoever. It sounds good. It sounds crisp. It's not overly low. It's not overly high in volume. I really don't have to do any tweaking to my EQ to kind of find that sweet spot with the record, which is great. And that applies to the both vinyl discs, both records. The NES sounds great. The Famicom sounds great. And it's nice, again, just like their last release, to be able to compare and contrast tracks very quickly. And just flip them on the sides, or if I go down to my DJ setup in the basement, I can have both versions playing on my turntables and mix between the two, which is really fun. It sounds great, it looks great, and if you're a fan of Castlevania 3 and its soundtrack, I would definitely pick this up. And honestly, even if you're not interested in playing these, they just make such a cool collector's item in terms of the artwork in these releases, and really just kind of saves and archives this wonderful music that maybe not many people have, or they only have digital formats of it, or they have CD versions of it. And I just really enjoy the format, and I really enjoy the look of these. I really enjoy playing them. So absolutely high marks for this release. Highly recommend it. Definitely get it before this disappears. I already see the 1000 version presses going anywhere from like $65 to weird amounts like $150 on eBay, which is just ridiculous. So get it while you can, because it will definitely go up in price. Now, unfortunately, I didn't provide any music for this in the background, because as soon as I uploaded the previous video with the vinyl rip, I did get hit with a notice that this music is copyrighted, and I didn't want it to hit this review. So if you want to listen again to this record in its entirety, check the link below in the description, or just go to my channel and follow the videos. That'll actually show you exactly where that full rip is, so you can listen to it for yourself. And as for my thoughts between which version of the music is better, the NES version or the Famicom version, I'm still partial to that first version I fired up back in the early 90s, and that is the NES version. I don't know what it is. I know the Famicom version has more channels, but this version just takes the cake for me. Sometimes less is more, and in this case I think the versions of this sound great. That being said, hearing this music again for the first time without the sound effects of the Castlevania games going in the background, you hear just so much more to it, especially in the Famicom version. And I gotta say that this record release definitely made me appreciate the Famicom version more of the music. NES still takes the cake, but I appreciate the Famicom version more, just for the simple fact that you know, I've played and I own the Akumajou Densetsu, I believe is the proper name for Castlevania 3, and it's either been on a Famicom, which is through RF, which may sound a little weird, low quality, the Famicom AV, which, you know, I think I read that it does weird stereo separation to things. I've played it on the Retron 5, which again can do weird things to audio, and then I believe I've also played it on the Retro USB AVS system, which I hear is fairly accurate, but not 100%. So to hear this reproduced in its actual quality, its original quality as far as I know, its original source, it sounds great. It really, really sounds good, and just talking about it wants to make me pop this on. So while I'm editing this review, I will throw it on the turntable. So overall, guys, I've gone a little long on this review, but I definitely enjoy this. If you're a Castlevania fan, pick this up. If you're a fan of game music in general, it's definitely worth picking up. So until next time, folks, take it easy. I'm Mike Murtis. Thanks for watching Gamer Logic, and make sure you share this video if you could. Thanks!
If you enjoyed this video, please help spread the word about Gamer Logic content by giving us a thumbs up and sharing this video on all your social network feeds. Your friends will thank you, and we'll thank you too for helping us out. Want more GamerLogic content? Support us on our Patreon page for exclusive mini articles, mini videos, desktop backgrounds, import Buchan videos, and monthly video game music remixes. Even supporting us with $1 gets you something cool. Thanks for your support.